Columbus, Georgia. This is your City Council. Mayor Teresa Tomlinson. City Manager Isaiah Hughley. Pops Barnes, District 1. Glenn Davis, District 2. Bruce Huff, District 3. Evelyn Turner Pugh, Mayor Pro Tem and District 4. Mike Baker, District 5. Gary Allen, District 6. Mimi Woodson, District 7. Walker Garrett, District 8. Judy Thomas, Post 9 at-large Counselor. Connie Washington, Clerk of Council. And City Attorney Clifton Fay. Columbus, Georgia, this is your City Council.
Everyone. Woo, sorry about that. And welcome to the June 12th meeting of the Columbus City Council. Today's a big meeting. We're approving our FY19 budget. This is my last budget, so it's a big day for me personally, and certainly a big day for all of us in Columbus, and we want to thank our staff, but we're going to get to that in just a moment. As you know, when we come together, we like to start off on the right foot, and so we have Evangelist Carol Davis here today from the Evangelist Ministry. And Evangelist Davis, we'd like to call you forward. And if you would please provide an invocation consistent with your faith tradition.
Amen.
Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm so happy to be here on today. Let us go to God in prayer. Father God, in the name of Jesus, Lord, we come before you humble in our spirits, Father. We thank you for our lying down on last night and for our rising up on today. We ask, God, that your presence be in this meeting today, Lord God, as we come together to discuss the affairs of this beautiful city, Columbus, Georgia, Lord God. We ask that everything be done decent and in order, and that we remember that we are here to serve yet your people of Columbus, Georgia, Lord. I ask that you be with each and every person, Lord God, as they speak, Lord God, as they listen, Lord God, and that they give your name the glory in all that they do. Everything is done in a respectable place, God. Father, we thank you for this beautiful day, a day that we have never seen before, Lord God. We give you glory, we give you honor, we give you praise. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you for all you do for our community. We know you also have a show on, I guess, CCG TV, sometimes just talking about community issues. So thank you so very much. We appreciate it. And we've got our pledgers today are from South Columbus Elementary Kindergarten Readiness Program, and they look ready. So they're going to help us with the Pledge of Allegiance. Come on up. Yeah. Let's. All right. Yeah, why don't y'all turn around, face this way, face the flag, okay? All right. Hey, you guys ready? Let's say it together. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent job. You guys are really, really good. Why don't you tell us your name and how old you are?
Stephanie, 4.
4, okay.
Jakari, 4. Dada, Rodriguez, 5. Kimari, 4. Quincy, 4. Brian, 5. Bentley, 5. Jalen, 5.
All right, that's great. Yeah. And please do introduce yourself, ma'am. I would like to hear.
Hi, I'm Miss Bush, and I normally teach, I taught kindergarten first, and then next year I'll be second, and then I'll give this over to her.
Hey everyone, my name is Miss Doyle, and I'm currently a kindergarten parapro at South Columbus Elementary School.
Fantastic. Well, great. Well, let's give them another round of applause. Thank you, guys. You did an awesome job. And have fun at school today. Hope you have a big day. All right, we've got, we're waiting on a couple more counselors. So what we're going to do, since we have some big things to vote on and we need to have at least 6 counselors here, Mama Love, since you're here, why don't you come on up and we'll start, we'll go ahead and get the public agenda in.
I'm an old Boy Scout, okay?
Right. We're glad to have you. Tell us your name and give us your address, please.
My name is Mama Love. God gave me that name. My mama gave me another name. But I want to say thank you for allowing me to come. I'm barely making it this morning, but God got my back. I came to talk about a situation I had where I tried very hard to get appliance from Fort Benning. And the guy came to my house and he verbally abused me in my kitchen. And then he got angry with me, and he took the refrigerator back. But at the same time, he called the police on me. And I wanted to talk about that because the 2 officers that came, first let me tell this, I have already forgiven him, but I am human, and I got very, very angry. And I had to ask God also to forgive me because when they came in my house, first they wanted me to allow the man to take the doors off of my house, which I did not agree with after you had stood in my house and verbally abused me. He's bigger than me, and it was 2 of them. So I said nothing but prayed. Okay, so when the police came and asked me the same thing, I told them no. And they took my door and they propped it open with the little thing at the top. So I asked them, they told me to go and get something he had left in there. I didn't know he left it in there. I didn't know he was calling the police on me because I had did nothing at all wrong. Okay, so I asked them, could they reach up and close my door back while I go and look for the items? They told me, no. I then say, please don't come in my house, okay? Before I could give them the item, they had came into my house. They had no warrant whatsoever. I had did nothing wrong. So I even got angry, and when I got back to my phone, it was a note saying that the company that sent the people, they have the contract with Fort Benning, but they go out and they hire people to do the deliveries. They said they can't tell them people what to do and what not to do. I think it's wrong for anybody to come in somebody's house and verbally abuse them. And I'm saying I feel it was wrong for the police to come inside my house. They said, it's not your house. This not your house. Well, anyone in the world is invited to my house to see that my sunroom is fully attached on my house. It is my house. And I'm very, very thankful to God for giving me a house because I was homeless off and on for 2 years. I'm a veteran. God gave me 21 years in the military. He started me out as a Women Army Corps, WAC. We never been recognized, but God let us make history, and God recognized us. I would like to see put in place, because of this, some kind of, you may already have it, and I'm not aware of it, and the 2 officers is not following it. But something needs to be put in place called sensitivity training. And also, if you got rules in place, follow those rules.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very, very much. And I'm so sorry that happened to you. And we do have sensitivity training, so I appreciate you bringing that up. But thank you for being here today.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll have Ms. Alameen. Would you like to come forward, please? And we started out with the public agenda today because we're waiting on a couple of counselors. Bless you. Yeah.
Let me ask you one question before I leave. Was that 10 minutes? Or are we going back to 5?
Let's do this. Carly, if you'd go talk with Mama Love and see what her questions are, just write them down, and then we can get her some answers, okay? So she doesn't have to yell. Well, good morning.
Mr. Mark Cofield isn't here, huh?
Well, yeah, but we'll get to him since we're having to go out of order today until we can get a quorum. So, but we're glad you're here. You want to just
Well, I wish I
state your
could be
name?
here when the other council members are here.
Well, okay, you can wait if you'd like.
Yeah, I'll wait.
Okay.
Since I'm just kind of rushing in.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right.
And Mr. Cofield could go first, that would be great.
Okay, yeah, I don't think he's here yet. So, yeah, I don't think anybody else is here with public agenda. So we can go to Mr. Jones. However you'd like to do it, Ms. Alameen. You want to speak now, or you want to?
Oh, no, if we could just give me a chance to collect myself.
Okay, all right. All right, we'll turn it over to the city manager then.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've got our planning director, Rick Jones, who's going to come and talk with you about complete streets. It's a subject that we've discussed before at the city council, and I think it was back in October. And so we are ready to bring back to you a few recommendations regarding complete streets. And so what I wanted him to do today is kind of do a refresh and an update related to complete streets. And then on next Tuesday, we then will ask you to vote on the request that we will bring before you. So I've got Planning Director Rick Jones talking about complete streets today.
Good morning, Madam Mayor and members of council. The city manager is correct in the fact that we did talk about this back in October of last year, but looking at the records, we actually made a presentation to you back in August of last year as well, from that standpoint. So we're back today to give you an update about that process and so forth. When we last left this conversation, though, we had this going on, and Councilor Huff has some questions and comments, and so he and I have gotten together and we have talked through some things, and I think we've got to a consensus about where we're trying to go more than anything else. I'm going to be real brief in this in trying to make this work for us this morning, but that complete street policy really is establishing again more than just trucks and cars running on a road. It is really actually what the name implies, making it more complete, so that you can have pedestrians walking along that side of the roadway. You can have folks who want to bike, can either bike in bike lanes or on bike trails involved with that. It also may include things like streetscapes, dressing at the roadways itself in terms of providing trees, some hardscapes, things of that nature to make that work. And what the policy does really is it establishes that how we're going to go about doing these things. And first and foremost, and I'll probably repeat myself when I say this in just a second, but we already really do have an actual policy in place. You approved one back in 2014. that really pretty much mirrors what the Georgia Department of Transportation is doing. And we just want to update this and put a little more emphasis into it and what we're trying to achieve here as it's involved with that. What the policy does mean, though, to you is it requires us to look at the street when it's being either resurfaced or redeveloped or whatever the case may be, and make that determination about what features should go on that road. As you see on the last bullet on this as well, it also implies, though, that not all roadways will have bike lanes on them, even if we go through this policy procedure. We may be looking only at sidewalk, we may be looking at things like transit, which is another component really of dealing with the complete streets policy itself. So that's what we're looking at from that standpoint. Like I said, back in 2014, we established a complete street policy that we have now in place by resolution. Again, it mirrors what the standards were set by the Georgia Department of Transportation. And so we have just improvised on those ideas and brought them forth from our standpoint. There are some changes we are proposing to the policy itself. One is we upgrade some of the design guidelines that are basically national guidelines, so we have a real basis here for establishing what the sidewalks should be or the bike lanes or things of that nature when we look at doing the roadway project itself. More importantly to me, though, is it actually establishes a committee basically made up of department heads such as myself and engineering and public works and others. It also will involving the members from the biking community, from Metro, and other folks may have a key component or key role in terms of determining what a complete street policy really is. From that, that committee would really look at when a roadway is for instance, getting ready to be resurfaced. The policy would be looked at in terms of what needs to happen. Does it need to go from a 4-lane section to a 3-lane section? Does it require the sidewalk? Would it require bike lanes? Yes or no? That kind of information. So we have it involved with all that. And then last but certainly not least would be that we would provide council an annual report and the citizens of our community an annual report of what we have accomplished. Too often, I guess the comments are, maybe the criticism is that a lot of folks don't feel like they have some of that input or don't know what we're actually trying to achieve as a community when we go in and actually either resurface a street or rework a roadway, whatever the case may be. We need to be able to provide you with that status and what we have accomplished under this complete street policy for the past year itself. Last and certainly not least in all this as well is we need to make sure we understand how complete streets are going to be designed in the community itself. From that aspect of it, we want to make our public right-of-ways beautiful and inviting to citizens and to visitors as well in the community itself. We want to make sure we have a transparent way of identifying these complete streets policies as well and how we're going to do that. Make sure that it's not perceived to be done in the back room somewhere, that we can actually show folks what the process is and how we got to the point of determining whether this would be a complete street project or not when it's all said and done. And again, developing this annual report would help us to monitor the process and really improve mobility for both our current and future residents in the area. So this is what we're trying to achieve here. Again, we already have a complete street policy in place. We're updating it though now to include some more standards for it. And more importantly, in my way of thinking, is we're developing a committee that's going to actually make that determination about what a complete street should be and shouldn't be in this community. And with that, I'll try to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, we've got Councilor Thomas.
Excuse me, Mr. Jones, I do have a couple of questions. The slide that you put up that said that does not mean that all roads must have bike lanes.
Yes, ma'am.
All roads must be considered for all of these things.
Right.
But not all would have bike lanes. Is that something that would have to come back before council if this committee that you talk about later on recommends some different configuration of the street? Would that come back to council?
It could, Councilor Thomas, in that regard. I don't know the policy right now expresses that, but it could, if you so desire, if we bring it back. If with any road project, especially when we have the expenditure of public funds, it has to come back to this council. We're certainly going to keep you informed at the same time about what's going on. I'm not sure how deep in the weeds you want to get in this in terms of dealing with a resurfacing project, for instance, where we may be resurfacing it and trying to determine a certain laneage on that, or do we add sidewalks, what the opportunity is. We certainly, though, can bring it back to you. That's not a problem or an issue.
Well, and I would just say that if we are going to do a resurface project, and we're going to add bike lanes, it will be my intent to present it to you so that the citizens will know along that roadway that they don't wake up one morning and they're surprised. They see that the road was resurfaced and it looks different. And so I'd really like for them to know in advance. So if we are going to add bike lanes, and we've done it in the past, for example, on Rigdon Road, when we were going to add a short distance of bike lanes, we shared it with you. And I think we've done it on a number of other streets, and it would be my intent to continue to share it here on the screen, and that people can see it watching by television or here at this council, that they can weigh in if they'd like to. And so my response to that would be not necessarily for action, but we will present to you our intent, and then, certainly if you want to take a position on it, you can at that time.
Well, you both are, I'm sure, fully aware of some of the, I don't know, the unrest in the community when we talked about 13th Street, when we talked about Linwood Boulevard, some of those that are making dramatic, maybe too strong a word, changes in the roadway, that the citizens felt that, first of all, they didn't have a proper input, and secondly, that was something that council should decide, not some other group. So just, and I tend to agree that if you're going to do something like we ultimately did on 13th Street and like the Linwood Boulevard, it needs to come back to us for that kind of input and discussion. The other question that I had was on the committee that you're talking about. I had several things that popped up when you said that. One was who appoints the committee? Is that something that needs to come back to council? Because this committee, if I understand what you said, is going to be making some rather dramatic decisions.
Well,
I want to know who's appointing them, and is the district, at least the district counselor, a part of that committee? I would hope that the answer to that one is yes. The district counselor, I think, should have input into that.
Well, and I don't, there is no committee that will make a final decision on anything. First of all, it would be advisory. And
advisory to whom, Isaiah?
It would be an advisory committee to staff that we would then bring something to before this council to share with you what the recommendation of the staff and committee would be. It's in my mind, it would be a committee that would make a recommendation similar to, PAC make recommendations, and staff take a position, and you have a PAC recommendation, and you have a staff recommendation. And when it comes before this council, we don't know what's going to come out of it, and so, again, a committee would make a recommendation, and at least we will know kind of what citizens at least think, because they represent the city. And then before we move forward again with anything in a complete street way and in bike lanes, it is my intent to bring it before this body and show you what we intend to do, and then hear from you. I think we've always demonstrated that, in fact, staff had on my agenda, if you saw it early, for a vote on this today. I told Rick Jones yesterday morning, no, we're going to update them this week, and we'll ask them to vote next week. That's just the way we do business. And so when it comes to adding the bike lane, we will act in a similar way and in the way that we've done it in the past.
Thank you.
All right, let's see, Counselor Woodson.
Good morning. I'm
Good morning.
sorry I caught just half of your presentation. You might have answered these questions already, but I still want to check with you. Can you help me understand completely the difference with the complete street and the resurface? The resurface is just that we're just going out there and just pave the street, and that's the end of the story.
Yes, ma'am.
And the complete street is when we're going to redesign the street. Am I correct?
Yes,
in
ma'am.
saying that?
The idea was as far back as, I believe it was 2014, when we adopted the policy we have now, was to make sure that when we look at a street, we're looking at its full potential, full capacity, other than just going out there and restriping, resurfacing. When you resurface, of course, that offers the opportunity to go out there and restripe, which may mean you have also the ability to add bike lanes at that point in time. And we thought it was just a good policy to go ahead and start looking at these things when we had the opportunity to do it, instead of trying to be, what am I trying to say here? We want to be more proactive in terms of looking at that. At least have the conversation to say, yeah, this has potential for additional bike lanes, new sidewalks, whatever the case may be. Instead of coming back and somebody asking us after the fact and saying, why weren't bike lanes put in? Why didn't you do new sidewalk? Why didn't you add new bus stops? That kind of thing. We're trying to make sure we again are being proactive in what we're trying to achieve here.
I just want to be clarified, and for those listening, to make
Right.
sure they understood the difference between both of them, because in the resurface, we really don't have an input but us reporting it. But complete street is different, then I think that's when we need to be a part of the conversation. But since it was brought up, I just want to clarify, make sure I understand it, and the viewing audience understands the difference between both of them.
Yes, ma'am. This really puts the responsibility back on city staff to look at these things, make that kind of determination, and again come back to you with that if you so desire. Again, we want to say though that not every street's going to be a candidate for that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we're going in and resurfacing some residential streets and subdivisions, obviously because of the right-of-way constraints and things of that nature, we may not be able to add some things, we may not want to add those kind of things. But it does at least require us to look at it and make that determination before it really gets out of hand.
And I think you already answered what the next question I was going to say. We were going to go into the neighborhoods or just doing the main streets.
Yeah, we'll look at those situations based on that resurfacing program itself.
Okay.
But again, the idea is for at least to have that conversation about the condition of the street, what we can add, what we can't add to the streets, what can we do to really actually overall enhance that product when it's all said and done.
And my reason for asking that is because in a lot of neighborhoods now, since bike riding and walking has become a way of life now, I was just wondering if that would be part of the resurfacing and the reviewing, and it sounds like it would be.
Yes, ma'am.
So, the other question was, you mentioned sidewalks and sidewalks design. I hope we get away from the first sidewalk design that we did, that we just surfaced an area. It wasn't an elevation on there, because those seem to be overgrown. People really don't use them. I just think that was money not well spent. I believe the sidewalks need to be elevated It's easy for a car to lose control or to park. They'll just park right on the sidewalk because it's elevated evenly. I've noticed that. So I just was wondering if in conversation or in the future conversation, can we look at that? And the two-part to that question is, will we look at, once we come up with more design and we have more financial stability, can we look at redoing those that were just made flat, especially where it's a neighborhood? I have two streets in mind that every time I drive by, it's a sidewalk, but people use it for parking because it's so, it's just elevated with the ground itself.
Yeah, I think you're asking us to look at curb and gutter.
Thank you. Okay, I couldn't think of the name.
And we certainly agree that our preference is to have curb and gutter. You used, and I could use Steam Mill Road, where I live as an example. There is no curb and gutter. And it's exactly what you described, and so roads like that need attention.
Okay, thank you. And my last question is, and I know you're going to start laughing, Isaiah. My last question is, will South Lumpkin Road be considered as one of those complete streets? Because I've been asking for it to be redone, to make its appearance.
I will say that it's South Lumpkin Road is on our list for streetscapes.
Okay.
I believe.
Yes.
It is. And so...
So it wouldn't be part of this?
No. Well, it would be a project.
Okay.
As we have it listed for streetscapes.
Okay. I like to, whenever, not today, whenever we can, if I can have an update on that, if I can have some conversation when you start doing like the design, because my thought in mind is that before we start the work, is try to get the property owners on that street in a meeting and conversation so that they can also do a little facelift to their, structures that they have. Even a little paint will help, watching the amount of signage. I think it's important if we can get those businesses in there to also see the vision and the dream with all the development with, Westfield being over there, with the golf course, with, the Infantry Museum, it wanting to be a gateway. Well, in order for it to be a gateway, the appearance needs to be improved. And I think if they're part of that reconstruction of that road, I think we'll have more buy-ins.
Okay.
So that's my reason. I'm not saying tomorrow, but when you start working towards that early on, I like to kind of have a conversation with the people that own the property. Unfortunately, the renters can't, they can have an input, but it's not their financial dollars that's going to make the difference. It's the property owner. So just something to consider, because every time I drive by there and I go to other cities or I go other places in town, I take pictures of things that can be done there to beautify it. So, and I know there's a couple more projects between South Lumpkin Road and Victory Drive, so I'm very concerned on how we're going to remodel it or resurface or whatever you want to call it, but improve the look of it.
Sure.
Okay.
And I will say just again, because I really want Councilor Thomas and others to just know that, the administrative policy that I will have is that if we're going to do something different with the street, then it will be brought here and shared with you and the public, and then you'll get to weigh in. If it's a resurface, of course, you get the list of streets to be resurfaced. But if we're going to do something different, we think we owe it that you will know as a city councilor, district representative, or citywide representative, and the public should know, and the people living in that area of the community should know that we're going to resurface and we're proposed doing something different with the street than what you're accustomed to seeing. And so I think they should know that.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all I had.
Thank you.
We've got Councilor Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me first say I want to express my concern about the process, keeping council informed of the information, the steps. One thing I would like to do is have more information on the committee, how that's formed, and what would be the makeup of the committee.
Yes, sir. You'll have that, there is a policy statement basically for that, based off that resolution. You'll have that for next week that identifies those committee members we have looked at trying to put on the committee itself. Again, it's primarily developing of technical folks from the departments and so forth, but you'll have that list in front of you next week.
So did you say it's internal?
Yes, sir, primarily. There are also some folks in dealing with maybe like waterworks. We have some biking interests that may be involved with this as well that need to be still in that. We certainly, as Councilor Townsend has already pointed out, if it's in your particular district, I think you need to be at the table also with us to hear what the conversation. This whole idea, again, is, and I may have misrepresented myself a while ago when I said this, but our whole intent is to keep you informed. But at the same time, we've got to set up a process that, other than just saying this street gets it and this street doesn't, we got to set up a real process here of how we make that determination for a street to be considered an actual complete street.
Well, I guess my concern comes from the viewpoint of the citizens that live on the street and in the area. What input will they have into this? I mean, I don't want us to go in there and say, well, this street's a good candidate, and nobody that lives in that area would have any knowledge of us even thinking about it. So,
and I think your point's well taken in that regard as well. I mean, there may be some, and I don't want to make this thing sounding some more simplistic than it actually is. But I think that the public's input is important to us. It has to be there, especially if it's going to really dramatically impact. And your definition of dramatically impact and mine may be different, but I'm just saying, I think I'm hearing what you say in that in terms of making sure we have public input to this, and I think that's our full intent, is to make sure that our citizens are involved and informed about what's going on with the street in front of their property or wherever it may be.
well, the next question I had or point I wanted to discuss was, I guess, the priority of street improvements. There's a broad definition here of complete street, and it concerns me to look at a street for repaving and then look at a street as a complete street. To me, the complete street process, while it's well intended, would be secondary. All streets that need to be repaved and improved should be primary. So that brings me to the point of the question of funding for the complete street process. Where does that come from?
Well, we'd have to look, of course, things like the paving fund itself, maybe some other opportunities in terms of dealing like, I don't know, I'm talking about what used to be called the transportation enhancement grants we get from GDOT. There may be some funding that the Metropolitan Planning Organization has that can be provided toward that. There's a number of funding opportunities for this to happen. But again, we're not committing ourselves to anything until this council tells us really how we're going to pay for it. We can give you the idea and suggestions and so forth. And again, that's the real question. I'm hoping that this committee or commission, whatever you want to call them, is really going to be kind of that buffer between you and the roadway project itself, in that, much like the city manager's already said, like with planning advisory, they act as that sounding board really to hear what the concerns are. And we want to do that with this committee, so that we can say that we have looked at every possible aspect of that road project itself in terms of resurfacing, whatever the case may be, and then bring that back to you and tell you, here's our findings. You can either agree with them or not, and let's go forward with that. But at the same time, we'll have to show you or tell you how we're going to pay for it.
Well, and in some cases, it's just a matter of, the road is wider than the standard width, and it's a matter that when you resurface it, you stripe it differently. And so there's really no additional cost because it's just restriping. But then there could be a case where they look at it and see a complete street and want to put, let's say, a 12-foot wide bike lane next to it, and there's a cost, and then that's where we got a real issue because, somebody's got to identify where the funding is going to come from. But in many of the cases, many of them, it's a resurface project.
Well, while I have the mic.
Sure.
I just want to remind you and council that it's very important to have the district councilors involved.
Absolutely.
Each of us have streets that are critical, at a critical state, and we need to be involved to try to voice our opinion about that particular situation. Secondly, in northwest, northeast, and some of the mid-east and southeast areas of town, we have basically rural roads that we have grown so quickly that we have not created the proper base and structure for that rural road to then handle the amount of traffic it is enduring. And it is wearing and wearing and wearing, and it's causing a lot of problems. So I would like for us to keep that in mind as we go forward with this. Complete street is a great idea and concept, but you've got to be at a point where you can begin the complete street process, and I don't think some of our streets are at that point yet.
Yeah, and we agree, and that's why each will be evaluated as we go, and if we are going to do something like resurfacing that road, then they go through that evaluation process to see if it meets or fits the case, and then that's when we involved the district councilor, citywide councilor. Look, let me tell you, the one thing that I'm aware of and that we are aware of as city and county managers, that times have changed and that council members are more involved and citizens are more involved or engaged.
Right.
And in order for us to help you do what the citizens expect of you, we got to make sure that you're involved on the front end so that you can satisfy your constituents. And that's what we want to help make sure we do for our elected officials. And so I'm conscious and aware that we got to have you on the front end because your citizens are going to, in your district, they're engaged and we see that every day. And one example is, I dealt with you on something the last few weeks via email, and that's because citizens are engaged.
Right.
And they require that you be engaged as a representative, so we're going to work with that in mind.
Okay. Well, you've been very responsive in that situation and others, so I appreciate that. I just want to heighten the alert and the alarm that there are streets that are needed. And I think to a counselor, each of us can probably are already thinking about certain streets in our areas that need attention. I know we have some major improvements coming out Highway 80 that DOT is implementing. We have little control or little input in that. They're doing what they want to do regardless. And when that project begins, a lot of traffic is going to be rerouted or detours will be put up and that kind of thing. So there again, the rural roads that are not built to handle that traffic are going to be impacted. And the neighbors that live on those areas are going to be impacted. So I'm already getting those calls. So I don't know if anybody else is receiving them, but it's concerning and it needs to be well thought out before we move forward. I'm concerned about us taking monies for resurfacing and moving them over to the complete street process, and it may not be time to do that yet.
Yeah. And I agree. That's why I say my focus would be more, when we talk about complete streets, on a resurfacing project where the road width is wider than standard, and we're just talking about restriping in a different way.
Okay.
My focus is more on that when we talk about complete streets than adding on and taking away from our resurfacing dollars. I don't think we're ready to do that.
Great. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. We have Councilor Huff.
Good morning, Director Jones.
Good morning, sir.
I appreciate you mentioning the fact that we had a chance to talk, and I appreciate having your ear. My concern is the number 2 piece of establishing a non-compliance committee without having a council person on the committee and without having public meetings within that district before it gets to the point of coming back to council. By the time it gets back to council, it's a little too late in the game for the public to respond in time and for us to get together and figure out what's what. Each district councilor has a pretty good idea about what's going on in the district, and the citywide councilors have an idea too, and then we update them as we go. My first recommendation would be that a council person would be on the committee if it's representing their district. The two at large would be invited to all meetings to know what's going on. My example would be the MLK project. The MLK project, if it had been under this, I would have been in a lot of trouble trying to get it done. But under the rules of having open meetings, hearing the public, their concerns, what we wanted to do here, we were able to bring the two sides together. Excuse me. And if you look at the design we have now, that came through probably 2 or 3 years of negotiation for us, sitting down talking, trying to have 4 lanes, trying to have bike lanes, trying to have walkable trails. And I think we came up with a pretty good idea of what the people wanted, and I think we have a very good plan. If you go through now and see what's going on out there, we have the 4 lanes where we could have the 4 lanes, and we had to cut it back, as a compromise to get it done. It's going to be a beautiful finish when we finish. But again, the public was very much involved. I kept them involved the whole time. And I don't want them taken out of the loop, because by the time we get back here, we have a problem at that point. You mentioned earlier about public funds, private funds, state funds, all of that good stuff. How does it affect us if it's private funds? Does it come back to us, or do you just go ahead and do it because it's not costing the city any money?
Well, I mean, involved with that, typically what I've seen happen with private funds is generally it's been a part of the match we had to have when we had to deal with state or federal dollars. Use the 80-20 match business is involved with that. That's the familiarity I have with private, and that it certainly is doable, and we have exercised that in the past.
And if we're going to accept private funds, that's always something that this council, whether it's $500 or whatever, we ask you to approve accepting. And so if private dollars are involved, it will come before you and you'll know about it.
Yeah.
And the other thing, Councilor Huff, I would strongly just recommend that that we have the committee in the fashion that has been presented, not with council members on that committee. And, it's kind of like council members, and you're not on PAC. And so just be assured that it's not going to happen without coming back to this body. And you will, first of all, as a district councilor, you can go to any meeting, but would not be on the committee per se. And then any concerns that you have, you would be updated and informed, and then any concerns that you have for your district, obviously, as I said, would be known at that point as a committee.
But as the representative of the district, I need to be in the room to know that I have a problem.
And that's fine.
It's a little late when we come here, because usually we're having to try to hash it out in a 4 or 5 hour period, and to see whether we will delay or come back.
And there's no problem with you being in the room. I'm just saying, on an administrative committee of staff and people, I mean,
I understand where you're coming from, but this is affecting the city as a whole, and it'll be affecting the district that I represent. And then when I received the phone calls on why didn't you tell me about it, why we didn't get notification, and we've had in some other areas of the city, my community complaining about not getting notified about the different types of homes that are coming into the district. And it was stated that we have not been notifying like we used to do. So it's just a few things that the people are a little uneasy. And I've always said this from the beginning, that I don't ever intend to interfere with staff. and I have this discussion with Director Jones all the time, I trust staff. The issue is when you're having an open discussion and someone lives somewhere else, they don't even know the directions to come through my district. And they're trying to make decisions on which way a road should be resurfaced and whether it should be road diet and whether it should be this or that. They have no idea. They can't, I mean, if you gave them the address, they couldn't drive to the district, but they're making decisions. So in being on this particular page, what I'm recommending is, first, the 2038 plan, they had several meetings around town ahead of time to get public input. And I think the meetings went very well. They were well presented to the public. The public well received them. We had a lot of good ideas that came back, and still, I guess they're still being looked at as far as the updates of what the public wanted. But again, I say, without prolonging the issue, if we're not in the room at the initial meeting, we need somehow of being in the process so that if I say to you, I've already heard about this particular street, I know it's an issue in my district, I need time to go back and have a public meeting and get the input of the district in order to come back to this council and you and everybody else to say, could we have staff and everyone to meet me at said location and talk about it?
Well,
because anytime you put a committee together and in this fashion, something's going wrong in the future. Somebody's going to get hurt. I don't know which one of us. Somebody's going to get hurt in this deal. And when the other councilors say, well, I have this going on in my district, and Councilor Allen says he's receiving calls. Councilor Woodson said, would you consider this? She's talking to her people. He's talking to his people. Councilor Thomas, everybody up here. And the last thing we need is to tell them it's going left and the project goes right. So I just need to make sure that we have a little bit more input on what's going on, not to tell them what to do, but Director Jones and I have talked back and forth, and he knows I don't have a problem with complete streets as a concept. Just this particular committee is the only thing I'm having problems with, because we are not in the room. We have no idea what's going on. We have no opportunity to have public meetings in time to change something, because if the committee gives us direction, at that point, if you get 6 votes that day, it's over. And we hadn't had time to go back to the people. So I ask you to please consider the fact of having us involved a little bit more than what I see on the paper in the presentation, and somehow to have public input to make sure that the district representative in the district is on board, because a lot of times it's not going to be a problem with you proceeding with the project when the people know what's going on. They need to know. I mean, because it's not a matter, everybody wants to have walkable streets and bikeable streets. That's not the problem. The problem is when people are making decisions at doing their best job that they can, but they don't live in the community. And it's better for the staff and the community to come together. They have recently been out with me to a couple of meetings. I saw one of the ladies yesterday from the meeting. Had a tree problem. They took care of it. She's as happy as can be. She was happy the way the meeting went. She was extremely impressed that city personnel, staff, department heads took time to come out to her community and meet with her. We had about, I guess, 20 people or so. It went very well, and that's all I'm asking. We just need to keep the community involved, the district involved, and the district representative involved. Thank you.
And Councilor Huff, I appreciate that, and that's the commitment that I have in doing exactly what you've said. And if you see that we're falling short, yeah, I ask that you let me know.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, that concludes comments, so thank you, Rick, very much. And
ma'am.
we now have a quorum, and so we'll go back to our regular agenda. We will first,
Madam Mayor,
yes, I'm sorry.
I just want to
Yeah.
just remind them that In the council packets, there was a resolution, an agenda report and resolution on complete streets policy. And I hope that we've answered your questions and addressed your concerns and how we will make sure that we keep you informed, engaged, that you can be able to service your constituents in the way that they expect you to. And so we will bring this back next week, and we hope that you will adopt it. And it's not perfect, but, and if we need to change something along the course of the way, if we are not engaging you in advance in the way that you need to be engaged, that you can answer questions of your constituents, I mean, let us know, and we're flexible. We can change it and do whatever we need to do. But we are going to bring it back to you next week for a vote. Staff had it on the agenda, my agenda for a vote this week. I wanted to have this discussion before we asked you to vote, because we wanted to answer your questions and take care of your concerns. So we'll be back next week.
Okay. Let's see here. We've got Councilor Woodson has a question.
City Manager, is it possible, I know that sometimes the deputy city manager, I think like every quarter or so, she gives us a list of the calls that went to 311 or the ones we've called in. It's a report she gives us, and it tells us,
Sure.
what happened there.
Right.
Could some of that be included with like the street, the streets, or any concern that, new development or anything, be added to that list that's given to us quarterly or monthly or, whichever way? It's just a suggestion. Because to me, that report that she provides us, it's very, very good and very detailed. So if someone calls and says, well, they never have, I've used that form where I had looked at it and say, well, I see that it was called in on blank, blank, blank day, and I see this happened on blank, blank day. I'm not sure what happened. Maybe let me follow up on it. But it's very informative. It doesn't, back up all your emails, because we get tons and tons. I mean, things get lost through our emails with junk mail and stuff. Something to think about.
So let me, I have Deputy City Manager Lisa Goodwin talk to you and see if that will work, or...
Just a thought to kind of help in the community, in the communication process, because my colleague is correct. During this time of election, there were questions that the public had an answer before we did. And there were some things where we felt a little uncomfortable in the sense of communication. And that's not pointing fingers at anybody. That's just trying to get the process we have in place to another level. And I found that piece of material very helpful and interesting. I don't mean that's the answer, but it's always great to have that communication, that conversation back and forth to find what tool or what resources can help us between the communication of our constituents and our employees. Because I think our employees are fantastic. I mean, they go beyond the call of duty to me. They're always available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even on holidays. So I don't have a problem there. We're just trying to find a better way. And emails sometimes don't work. They get lost. So I'm not sure. But I'll be more than happy to just have a casual conversation and see if we could try something.
Sure.
If we try something and it works, it works. If it don't, then let's go back to the drawing table. No different than what Rick Jones is bringing. This is a proposal. Let's try this. If it works, it works. If not, just like in an ordinance. You create an ordinance. If it don't work, what do? You amend it. But we have something in process. Okay, thank you.
Great. We have, let's see here, we have Councilor Huff.
Quick question. You said it's coming back for a vote, so are you going to take a look at it as far as involving council, or is it coming back in its present state?
Well, I was hopeful that, the commitment that the engagement part, I don't know who's on the committee yet, but it's, as I understand, it's going to be internal people and people at Waterworks, as Director has said. My commitment is that the committee will do whatever they're going to do, and then, we're going to engage the district counselor and citywide counselor and council as a whole. And so I ask that you allow that process to work, and if we are not measuring up and making sure that you're briefed as a district counselor, and that we're coming to council with information and presentations that will satisfy you as you satisfy your constituents. Let us know, and if we need to change it, we'll change it.
I'm just real concerned that in the process of having that discussion, that committee might have taken a different turn, made a different decision if they'd had the council person in the room at the time to tell them there's a problem in this particular area. They may have made a different decision at that point.
Well, there's no issue.
I go back and forth all the time because you can't go back and recreate a meeting. You can't recreate what was stated. You can't recreate that the people in the room here today expressed themselves a certain way. Somebody in the room may have convinced me that I'm wrong that day, and that maybe I need to go back to my district and tell my district, I've came back today with some good ideas from the meeting, and you need to take a look at it from this particular angle.
Well, and Councilor Huff, I guess my thought is that the council member can go to the meeting, but if he's going to list the engineering director and the deputy city manager and another staff and a waterworks person as a committee, I'm saying I'm not recommending that we list a council member as a member of that committee.
Yeah, but ex officio, I mean, we don't want to come vote. We need to know what's.
Well, you can come anyway. That's my point.
I mean, but
You'll
I'm saying to be invited to all meetings and not every now and then. Sometimes they may come up with.
No, if you're the district counselor, they can let you know every meeting that's scheduled.
I'm saying, well, can we put this in the documentation saying that we will be invited to every meeting so we can come in and listen?
I think he's asking for an amendment to the.
Amendment,
A
yes.
resolution or whatever.
Yes.
Is it a resolution or an ordinance that'll come back?
It's a resolution.
Okay.
If you prefer that,
The district
I
council?
was hopeful that you will, my word would be good that we will do that, but if you feel better putting it in the resolution, and that's what you want,
Yes. Things sometimes just have a funny way of making a wrong turn. So I just think it'd be good if you don't mind if we could put it in print.
so you want to put in the resolution that the council member will be invited.
Invited to come to all meetings affecting their district, and the citywide councils will be invited to all meetings.
And is that, okay.
Because I'm saying, all of us are busy, so Council Baker, Allen, and the rest of us up here, they have no reason to want to come to a District 3 meeting unless I invite them. They will invite me to their meetings, but the citywide, as we always say, each district has 3 representatives. So the 2 citywide councilors and that district person should be at the meeting. That's what I'm asking.
And it could, it could head off, controversy at the pass, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
If the counselor's there. So anyways, just notice. Hey, Clifton, can you get something in there to?
We'll be glad
Oh, did you didn't
we
draft it?
didn't draft it, but we'll be glad to
Oh, okay, I'm
help
sorry.
on
I
the
thought
Senate.
Clifton drafted it. Okay, just something in there, yeah.
Staff can put in the resolution that the district counselor, and who else?
And the outlaw, and the at-large.
At large.
And at-large councilors will be invited to every meeting?
Yeah. What is-
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, sure.
Okay. Anything
Thank you.
else? Yep, I know we're coming back to you, but let's see here. We need to approve the minutes of May 29th executive session and the June 5th proclamation resolution session that was also a council meeting. So we have a motion from the Mayor Pro Tem and a second from Councilor Allen. All those in favor, please state aye. Great, so we'll turn it over to Clifton Fay.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We've got a lot of business items to cover this morning for votes. The first one up is the demolition ordinance for the structures you viewed and discussed previously. That is ready for adoption.
Okay, we've got a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, please record your votes electronically. And it passes.
All right. Next item is an ordinance rezoning 3812 Casita Road to light manufacturing. Mr. John Anchor for the Anchor Pack Company, ready for adoption.
Okay, we've got a motion. Is there a second? Did we get a second? Okay, Counselor Huff with discussion.
Quick question on that. Are they using that facility that's on the property now, or are they doing something different?
Give me your name, Mr. Anchor.
We acquired the facility a few months back, and
We need to get your name real quick and address.
I'm John Anchor, and I own Anchor Pack, and we have our third facility on Casita Road at 3812.
Great, thank you.
And your question was, are we using the facility currently?
Yes.
Yes, sir. We acquired it a few months back, and we had the facility across the street, the old Fold Pack plant, where we have employees on assembly lines kitting materials. And across the street on this new facility, 3812, we're using that as a warehouse to store extra raw materials and finished goods.
Okay, I don't have a problem. I thank you for being in the district. I just need to know what's going on.
I'm proud to be there. I
I
like
read
our
over all the
district.
materials and everything, and with the new high school going up and you coming in, I just want to make sure everything's together there.
It's a good neighborhood. I'm
It
proud
is.
to be there,
Yes,
and it
thank you.
feels good. I'm glad to see the environment coming up. The people are good. I think more citizens should drive out that way and see what you got going on, what we have going on.
Thank you. Thank you for being a part of it.
Thank you.
All right, good. So I think that concludes discussion. You may record your votes electronically. And it passes.
Thank you, Mr. Anchor, for being here. The next item, Mayor, is the final vote on the operating and capital improvement budget for FY19. It's ready for adoption.
Got a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, you can record your votes electronically. And it passes. Thank you.
Next item is the non-operating budget for FY19 for the various funds listed. It's ready for adoption.
Got a motion and second for approval. Any discussion on this item? All right, you may record your votes electronically. And it passes.
Item 5 is the solid waste collection disposal amendments for garbage fee, ready for adoption.
We've got a motion and second. We have Counselor Huff with discussion.
Is this the one where we're increasing the fee?
Yes, $1.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, is that it? Okay. You may record your votes electronically. All right, and it does pass.
Okay. 6-2. The next item is amending Section 8-14 to revise the fee for issuance of certificates of occupancy. That's ready for adoption.
Okay, we've got a motion and second for approval. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, record your votes electronically. And it passes.
All right, items 7, 8, 9, and 10 are the pension fund contributions, general government, public safety, disability plan, and death benefit escrow. Those are ready for adoption.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, please record your votes electronically. And it does pass.
Item 11 is the annual leave, sick leave amendment, about 15-minute increments.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second for approval. There appears to be no discussion. You may record your votes electronically. And it passes.
Item 12 is amendment of Chapter 13 with respect to regulation of stockpile materials and other definitions.
We've got was there a motion? I didn't hear the original motion. Okay, and a second. All right, you may record your votes electronically.
All right. Yay.
That passes.
All right. Mr. Fay?
Item 13 is the Sunday brunch referendum ordinance. This will authorize the referendum in November for another hour and a half of alcoholic beverage sales at bona fide restaurants.
Okay, we've got a motion and second. There appears to be no discussion, so you may record your votes electronically. And it does pass.
Okay, and if that referendum does pass, then on November 6th, and the very next Sunday, this ordinance will be in effect after the election. So, item 14 is the membership provisions for Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, ready for adoption.
All right, we've got a motion and second for approval. There appears to be no discussion, so you may record your votes. And whoop, hold on a second. Somebody's didn't take. Counselor Woodson, there it goes. Yeah.
Okay,
Got to put a little wrist in it.
that passes.
And it did pass.
Item 15 is a similar amendment for the Aquatics Commission, ready for adoption.
We got a motion and second for approval. There appears to be no discussion, so you may record your votes. And it passes.
All right, item 16, this is a first reading on the countywide millage ordinance, 3 urban service districts and 3 business improvement districts. Are there any questions around the table? Ms. Alexander is here.
All right, this is our public hearing for our millage ordinance, so if anyone wanted to speak publicly as it related to the adoption of our millage rate, they can now do so, but the only thing that's changing as far as the millage rate that we adopted for FY18 is the debt service millage that has decreased for FY19. It has gone down from 0.60 mils to 0.47 mils. That is the one change in our millage rate. The other important information about what's in the millage ordinance is our installment dates. You know, we typically adopt 2 installment dates, one in October, one in December. The October installment date for FY19 will be October 15th instead of October 1st. So that is incorporated into our millage ordinance for FY19. And that was at the request of the Tax Commissioner's Office with agreement for representatives from the Muskogee County School District and with the city representatives as well. We all agreed on October 15th being the first installment date.
All right, we've got hold on a second, Councilor Thomas.
That looks a little scary.
I was just trying to get them to put a chart up that you could see the numbers, and that's there.
Yeah. Did you get it up? Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why yours, usually they turn your on automatically. There you
We're
go.
just trying to get the chart up, Councilor Thomas. I'm sorry about that.
That looks like an interesting place to be.
Yeah.
Go off into the.
So that you can see it actually. So hopefully they can get that up. If not, we'll make sure that we have it for the next hearing.
I don't know about that.
Interesting. I didn't say
but-
I'm going there. I just said it looked interesting.
But she's ready for your question while they
Okay.
work on that.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Alexander, I have 2 questions. One is, this talks about the establishment of taxing districts, and I know at one time we talked about some reconfiguration of Urban District 2. This does not, there's a question mark at the end of this. These are the same taxing districts that we have had in the past, is that right?
That's correct.
So none of that has changed?
That's correct.
The second thing that I would ask you to do, Ms. Alexander, I know you said that our millage rate was going down slightly. What will that mean? How will the average citizen see that? What impact will that have on the taxes and that sort of thing?
The value of one meal from a debt service standpoint is a little bit more than $5 million. And it's not going down, a complete meal is actually going down 0.13 meals from last year. So that'd be about 13% of the $5 million. I can do the calculations for you in just a minute if you want to know from a dollar standpoint. But it's just the debt service millage that's going down.
So when I get my tax bill, that portion, the debt service millage will be a little less than last year?
That's correct.
Okay. And so that's how this affects then taxpayers in Columbus?
Yes.
It'd be just slightly
less.
Less?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And we have Counselor Davis.
I think Councilor Thomas just touched on what I wanted to ask you to comment on, but this is usually the part when citizens get a little nervous because there's a lot of calculations here, and most of the time they interpret it as their taxes going up, but it's actually not.
That's correct.
Nothing has changed. At the end of the day, when you add it all up in the calculations, subtraction, everything, the millage is back to where it is, other than the debt service. The debt service, you may see, who knows, $1, $2, $3
Right.
lower on your tax bill this year, your property tax bill.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thank you for explaining that.
That appears to be all.
Any other questions in the audience on the millage rate? I don't see any hands, Mayor.
Okay.
So a chart here that's listed on the screen is the chart that is included in the millage ordinance, and the net M&O millage, which is our maintenance and operation millage rate, that is still 17.18%. I'm sorry, 17.18 mills. As you can see, the bond millage rate, which is our debt service millage rate, is listed as 0.47 mills for a total millage rate of 17.65 mills, whereas FY18, that total millage rate was 17.78 mills. So
The bond millage rate is the debt service.
that's correct.
Okay. We've got Counselor Davis.
I wanted to add a little correction, or just add a piece to it outside. This is the city operations here. This is the city side of the property tax bill, but the school district is totally different.
That's
They
correct.
could raise their millage rate. They have another millage rate. They could raise their millage rate. They could go down. I don't know what it is over there, but this is on the city side.
That's correct.
So I don't want anybody to get that misinterpreted that I said the taxes wouldn't change.
That's correct. Good point.
Okay. All right. That appears to be it.
Okay. Again, those installment payment dates will be October 15 and December 1. But this is just first reading. We'll vote on that at the next meeting. That'll be next week at 9 a.m. Then a reminder, as Councilor Davis alluded to, the school millage ordinances will be brought in July for first and second reading at those two meetings, because they are not going to take official action until the end of June. But we'll bring those back in July. And Mayor, we don't have any other items for a vote, but we need an executive session on personnel, potential litigation, and real estate property disposition.
Okay. Great.
Thank you.
All right. And we've got Counselor Woodson.
Clifton, I just want to make sure on item 13, we're saying item 13, that's going to go to, I just want to make it clear that that's not saying that we, council, are going to change the timeframe for alcohol from 12 to 11. That's just saying that it will be on the ballot for the voters to vote on it.
That's
I just want to make sure it's clear, because when I was looking at it, I received the text, and I said, no, it's going on the ballot. So the people will be the ones to choose.
Right.
Whether we do or don't. But the state is allowing us to go ahead and put it on the ballot.
That's correct. It'll be a special referendum at the end of the ballot, and if it passes by the voters, then it'll go into effect automatically that week, but the statute does require the referendum.
Okay. And city manager, is it possible that we can have Ms. Pat Beniegler come back and do a update in why we went ahead and raised the garbage fee $1 to show where we were, to show some of those vehicles, those problems we had, and this is the reason why?
Sure.
Because I know there's mixed emotions in the community about why should we or why shouldn't we, where is that money being spent? And I think if we can just have an update on where those funds go, what is it being spent, and why do we need it, that increase?
Yeah, we can show you what the increase was in the current fiscal year and what we were able to do with that increase, and the increase that has been approved for 19, what we will do with that, and then how that affects the overall fleet and operations in integrated waste.
Thank you, because I know we received that report and we've seen it, but sometimes when it's a long period of time like that and then we're, approving something now, people will forget. And this will also help remind the whole purpose and why we did it and what was the importance of us putting another dollar on the bill.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. I think that's it. Mr. Fay, are you finished up?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. And so we will now go into our public agenda. Ms. Alameen, did you want to come on up? I don't think anyone else is here. Well, let me see real quick. Hold on a minute. Somebody did walk in. I don't see Ms. Susan Gallagher. Mr. Mark Cofield. Is Mr. Mark Cofield here? Okay. Saw a few folks I didn't recognize. Wanted to make sure. Ms. Alameen, you wanted to come on up?
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
And don't forget to state your name and your address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Teresa Alameen, 3911 Steam Mill Road. I really do appreciate this opportunity at Open Government. And I must say, out of all the places I've lived, this is the most generous public agenda time I've ever known, and I really thank you. I always think I'll never use the whole 10 minutes, but I find myself doing that. And I want to give a little bit of commentary on the issue of open records as I pursue my requests for open records through the city attorney's office. When I first moved here in May of 2011, I asked the Muskogee County School District for the out-of-school suspension data. And I was told by the keeper of the records at that time that we don't just give that information to anybody. Well, what was happening at that time in 2011 is that the State Attorney General, Mr. Sam Olens, was showing that he was an activist on the question of open meetings and open records. He was actually traveling around the state doing trainings for communities, and I think he may have come here to Muskogee County. I think there was an issue with the school board about open meetings and open records at the time. Well, over these years, I found that through the Muskogee County School District, that they have learned the significance of complying with an open records request. The board attorney, Mr. Ellington, who is with a private firm, and I think he has a contract with the Muskogee County School District Board, when I send a request to him, within 3 days, I've got it. Because this is a great sunshine law. in the state of Georgia, one of the better ones I've seen. And I've been requesting these type records in lots of different places where I've been active in the community. The records in question right now have to do with the fact that the chief security officer, which is something that's definitely going to impact the city, reported at a March board meeting of the Muskogee County School District that 34 students had been arrested and charged with 38 different crimes. It's so distracting to watch Mr. Allen and Ms. Woodson talking over there while I'm talking.
They can confer. You
Well,
just
I
go
understand
ahead.
that,
I understand, but you just, yeah.
Oh, well,
So you just go
don't
on.
listen to what I'm saying, please. Yeah, because it's important. It's important. It's important. Because 34 students had been arrested in the month of February and charged with 38 different crimes. When I heard that at the March board meeting, I put in an open records request for all of the student arrests from September 1 to February 28. Some of you may have seen the news article about it on April 23rd because Mark Rice asked me for those records. And it was from that he wrote his story saying that 166 students had been arrested during that period, more than one a school day. So what I am trying to figure out now is what has happened to all of those students who were arrested, because the security officer has admitted that some of them got cases. So I approached the Columbus Police Department for those records. Well, I was told that it would cost $200+ to get them. And so after contacting the state attorney about that, I realized there was an issue about the juvenile records and the time it might take to take a look at the juvenile records. So I did modify my request to focus strictly on the high school students, because the likelihood of those students being charged as adults, they're 17 or 18. So I was given another email after putting in my modified request from the city's attorney's office from Ms. Smith, saying that there were 97 records involved. I assume she meant there were 97 students who were in the high school numbers.
Okay.
And that's my first 5 minutes?
Yes,
And that it would cost $82 and change to look at those records. And then some additional costs would be determined later. Well, what I wrote back to Ms. Smith and said is that, can you give me the total of what it's going to cost to actually complete my request, which is to know what happened to the students who were charged as adults, if they got a case, and what is the status of those cases. Because the school to prison pipeline is something very real. The Muskogee County School District prison pipeline is real. I talk about it a lot. Talk about it at conferences all over this country, because when you put students in that pipeline, you get what you get in this community with all those young black men showing up on the front of the paper, because that's who they are. The ones who are suspended, the ones who are in the school to prison pipeline, they're the black boys overwhelmingly. And so I'm asking for that information because it's important for the community to understand the contribution of the schools to crime in the community and how the school to prison pipeline works. Now, I am not opposed to paying for records. This stack of records, which I paid for from the clerk of council, thank you so much. These are original documents that were copied 6 years of crime prevention contracts, the things that you call grants, that are really contracts between the mayor and the city manager with the various agencies who collect that $700,000. These are those records, plus the minutes. I paid for this. I don't remember how much I paid for it, but these are the original records that it took time to copy. What is happening, I think, with the police department and my requests that go there, when I'm sent the electronic records, there seems to be some dispute that we're having. Well, that dispute, I don't think will ever be resolved about records I received previously last year, but on the current request for the records for the student arrests, I'm willing to pay in advance, knowing that I'm going to get the actual records that are requested. I have modified the request so that I would be assured of getting only the adult records of the arrest of the students. And I am pursuing this, and I'll continue to pursue it, but I hope that there's something that you can do, Ms. Woodson, Mr. Allen, to help me with this, if you're concerned about this, because it's important. The community needs to know. And I really, really appreciated the conversation you were having about the complete streets. Very important, Mr. City Manager, that people are engaged, because those of us who are engaged in the community want to know that our council members are on top of what's happening. And as you know, we live on the same street, and there's a bunch of stuff I could talk about on that street. And so we really need to have that level of engagement from council members. And I really appreciate, Madam Mayor, that you allowed me to wait until you had a quorum here.
Sure.
And now all of the council members who are on duty are here, and they can get to hear what I'm saying, because I really do want to get this done, because they're getting ready to make a very important decision to spend $4 million to have their own police force, their own police agency inside of the Muskogee County School District. $4 million. It's going to draw from what you're trying to do, trust me, because they're going to get $40,000 a year, and they will be in the teacher retirement system, a system where I don't believe they're paying 4% of their salary into that. So we're going to have that situation in this community. Everybody needs to understand that connection between what's happening at the Muskogee County School District and what you're trying to do and what people are concerned about, schools and crime. That's what the Chattahoochee Valley Foundation is saying, schools and crimes. So when we have the on the table meeting, October 23rd, I'm sure this will be a big part of the discussion. I think they're going to have a hard time getting that police agency together, but we shall see. But I just want you to know what's going on as I pursue my open records request.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And yes, it is, I'll tell you, with the open records request, we do follow it right down the line as far as how we pay, how we require payment, when we require payment, how much that payment is. And so I know Mr. Fay wants to speak to that and just sort of explain that, so.
Thank you, Mayor.
But and just to clarify, because a lot of times, and it's not just you, Ms. Elamine, the speaker will come up and start then batting around, so your time's expired. So unless council asks a question, yeah, I know, that's right. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Fay.
I just want to read one email into the record, please, that our paralegal, Ms. Smith, has written back and forth with Ms. Elamine with respect to the arrest records, some of which may be juvenile records. I'm just going to read this into the record. Dear Ms. Elamine, I believe that my previous estimate given to you is accurate. However, in response to your revised request of May 23, please be advised that the Columbus Police Department has informed me it will take approximately 15 minutes for each of the 97 cases just to determine whether they are juveniles or not, and the size of the files, thus the time spent in such a preliminary search would require approximately 24.25 hours at 3.42 per hour, bringing the total amount due to process this request to $82.94. We can give you an estimate of further costs once we have had a chance to review the files which did not involve a juvenile. OCGA 5018-71C1. I will need your agreement to payment and the authorization to proceed. Please be advised that you also owe an outstanding balance of $116.24 to the Columbus Police Department for the crime statistics for 2013 through 16 provided on September 7th. To proceed with your modified request, please remit a check in advance in the amount of $82.94 payable to Columbus, Georgia, care of the City Attorney's Office, P.O. Box 1340, OCGA 501871D. Cordially, Marcia Smith, paralegal. Now, under the statute, when there have been prior requests and those requests have not been paid for, then the next request that comes in, you require an advance payment of $82.94. And we're perfectly willing upon that advance payment for our paralegal and the police department folks to see if there are juvenile records involved that need to be redacted and taken out. But that's the way the law works. And one final point, open records disputes. This council doesn't have technical jurisdiction over these disputes. Superior Court does. So if there's a really serious dispute, it doesn't come here, it goes to Superior Court. But I wanted y'all to know that they've been working back and forth with the police department to comply. Another request was complied to on the same date, May 29th, involving her pension report questions. And she received that response in a timely manner. So this has gone back and forth. The jurisdiction lies in Superior Court for a real dispute, but we're working to try to get through the problem on an advance payment of the $82.94. We'll take further action. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. I hope that was helpful, and so thank you for coming. And we do want to move on. I think, did Mr. Cofield come in? No? Okay. Okay, and before we go into Ms. Palmore, we've got Counselor Woodson. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Hold on, there we go.
Ms. Alaman, I just want to make a comment. The conversation that Counselor Allen and I were having was what outstanding program you have. And I was trying to recruit some help for your program. But we were listening at the same time, but I needed to take that opportunity before I have a senior moment and forget about it, because you have an outstanding program where the children come to learn and read and help with their homework, then they get to keep the computer. And he was asking me the question, where does she get her funding? I said, from generous people and companies that donate the computers and so forth. So just wanted you to know, we weren't ignoring you, we were listening, but I was giving some little pull, maybe we can help you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Alameen, I'm sorry, Ms. Palmore. All right, if you would just state your name, we'll start your time. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Audrey Holston Palmore, and my address is 1035 Lawyers Lane, Columbus, Georgia, 31906. On several occasions, I have been before council on the public agenda. On the first time that I made an attempt to approach the mayor, Teresa Tomlinson, it was in December 2017. I still have the same concern regarding meeting with Teresa Tomlinson due to the fact that she is the public safety director. And it is my understanding that the public safety director is directly involved with overseeing several different departments in city government. Namely, my main concern the Columbus Police Department. My reason for being concerned is because I called for assistance from the 911 outreach dispatch, and I requested that an officer come for assistance to me at a business here in Columbus, Georgia, licensed here in Columbus, Georgia. And I felt that I would be protected with my request. The police officer did arrive. I'm talking to you, Ms. Teresa Tomlinson, if you would mind just giving me your attention. It's not a matter of hearing, it's a matter of being attentive. Thank you. And the police officer did arrive, and there was a police report filed. I went to pick up the police report, and I requested that before I picked up the police report, I met with the officer, because when I went to pick up the report, there was not one on file at the desk at the Public Service Center. So I let it be known that I wanted to meet the police officer and request that when he filed the report, that he would be present for when I came to pick it up. Well, when I went to pick it up, the police officer was not present. And I've read and reread and read again, so then I started calling to the proper authorities within the police department, requesting that the police officer call me, which he did, and he said that he was unable to get the name of the person at the business that he spoke with. And so I told him that I had the information, and when I called back to give him the information, I have not been able to reach the particular police officer. But there were several police officers that gave me information about how to contact the particular police officer in what we call authoritative positions. In other words, people that he worked under. So when it came time to talk with the mayor in December 2017, and I want to go back and say that this had been going on, me trying to contact the police officer since May 2016. So when it came time for me, thank you for my additional time that I didn't know I was going to have, but when it came time for me to go to talk to the mayor, I'm going to say, did not understand, because she interjected that it was something prior to what I was speaking about. And for the last 4 months, I've tried to enlighten the mayor that this had nothing to do with prior information that she wanted to share with the public, which I call mental clutter. So I understand that this is a process. And since this is a process, I'm understanding that maybe the reason why she's not saying anymore that this is related to the church is because I've tried to emphasize to her that this has nothing to do with the church. And the case report number has nothing to do with the church. So I think we're making progress toward meeting with the officer, because the public safety director is no longer saying what she was saying initially. Because the fact of the matter is, integrity is in place on my part and on her part. And now I think that because she hasn't said anything else about it being related to the church, that she is fully aware that this has nothing to do with the church. And I'm glad about that part, because we want to move forward. I know I want to move forward. My family members want to move forward because they are anxiously awaiting, well, Mama, why do you think what happened happened? Well, I'm documenting everything for the purpose of future generations within the family understanding that this happened, but just because it happened, that didn't make it proper. So I'm coming to try to get an understanding so that I can explain to the future generations of the family and others that things happen, but you just don't have to lie around and sulk about it. You can go straight to the source and say, why did you write this information? I'm not understanding why you wrote this information. And the person who is in charge of that individual can come to an agreement about why what was recorded was recorded. And that's why I'm seeking your attention, Public Safety Director Teresa Tomlinson. I have not heard from you in writing. I did request at the December 2017 meeting, when you had your assistant talk to me at the end of the meeting, that I did not want any telephone calls. I only wanted U.S. Postal Service communication. In the recent paper, I noticed that you have been writing letters in defense of other organizations. I'm not an organization other than the mother, the wife of my family. And I want my family members to understand that I was not trying to do anything in violation of the law. So I'm coming to you as the head of the law enforcement, serving as the public safety director, to help clear this matter by just simply meeting with me and having the composer of this case number 17013211-001 come and speak to me. Now, my address, again, and I hope that you can write me by June 18th and let me know when I can come and meet with you and the composer of this report. I've been waiting since December, and I think that, I've made a good presentation on the importance of this happening.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ms. Palmore. And one thing that would be helpful is, we're not going to rehash this, but instead of just showing up at my office, just showing up, just call my office.
I haven't shown up at your office not one time looking for you. You have a newspaper there. When I go and see Miss Tiny Washington, and I ask them, do they have a newspaper? They say,
all right,
no.
that's fine. Yeah,
I know
you just come and sit in my office. Okay, that's fine. I know.
Showing up
Okay.
is another you're communicating
Well,
the wrong
I'm trying, Ms.
information to the public.
I'm trying, Ms. Palmore, to give you a little option here.
So are you saying that I just show up at your office to
No,
talk
I
to
was
you?
trying to say that if you wanted to meet, call me, and we would try to figure it out, but just showing up at the
Call you.
office and call the office,
but just showing up and sitting there for an hour or so. Sometimes
okay.
I'm
Well,
at meetings.
You
and-
have the right to misinform.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry, Ms. Palmore, I was trying, but that's enough. Thank you very much. Your time's expired. We appreciate your attendance today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But I'm not going to stand here and let you just
Okay, yes, I
make
understand.
misinformation
Thank
about
you,
Audrey
ma'am.
Host and Palmore.
Okay,
Doesn't work.
appreciate you. Okay, I think that concludes the public agenda, so we're moving on to the city manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On number one on my agenda, I am going to delay it. I noticed the city attorney asked for executive session on real estate property disposition, and so I'm going to delay that until after executive session on real estate property disposition. So number two on my agenda, I've got donation of $90,000 from an anonymous citizen for Cooper Creek Tennis Center, and we're asking your acceptance, approval of the $90,000.
We've got a motion and second for approval. Does anyone have any discussion? We have Counselor Huff.
I just wanted a clarification of what pickleball is.
Well, I'll have to let staff tell you what pickleball is, because I don't know.
We're all for this, we just don't know what we're voting for.
It's kind of like tennis, but it's played with a ping pong paddle and a wiffle ball, and just the scoring and the rules are a little bit different. Like a wiffle ball, the plastic ball. And it is spreading across the nation, and so we're very fortunate to get this donation to be able to have some at Cooper Creek. We want to start our own league. The YMCA has a very active league in pickleball right now.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I figured Councilor Davis would know what it is, but I just... Okay.
All right.
And so I have purchases.
Okay. Did we need to vote on something? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say, we have motions and seconded, but I didn't. I missed it if they did. Okay, we've got some more discussion. Hold on a second. Counselor Woodson apparently wants some more information on the...
I just had a crazy idea, and I was sharing it with my partner over here. Maybe once it's all set up, you can set up something and council can come out there and try it.
Absolutely.
A little team building exercise between us, hitting that little ball back and
You
forth.
do know that you have two baseball players on this council.
Oh, they could sit down as referees.
I'm just
Oh, we
saying.
could take one on each side.
Okay. all
And then
right.
we could play.
We'll have an off-record conversation
We will
about
set
your
it up for
odds.
you.
Just a thought.
Okay. Okay, so let's see. I think that ends discussion. If you would record your votes electronically. I used to play some mean softball. Okay, it passes.
Okay, on the purchases, I've got pool repairs for the Columbus Aquatic Center with Sun Deck of Columbus for the option C, which is the pool deck. It's $21,450, and Aqua.
All right, we've got a motion and second for approval of A through E. Did anybody have any questions or comments on any of those individual items? All right, seeing none, you may record your votes electronically. All right, and it does pass.
And Madam Mayor.
Wait, hold on a second, we've got, the clerk needs something.
Previous item, Councilor Barnes did not select this.
That you're in favor? Okay, yeah. Okay, that's an affirmative vote. And then on this one, it passed, and that went through, did it? Okay. All right, we're good then. Mr. City Manager?
And so I've got two just emergency purchases that I want to bring to your attention. One is with the Sheriff Department. It was a hot water system at the Muskogee County Jail, and it was $21,000. And then we had, during all of the rain that we had a weather emergency repairs and purchases. And there was a need to engage some contractors and rent pumps to begin pumping at least 2 of our watersheds, and that was an emergency purchase, so that you know. And so we don't need a vote. I just wanted you to be aware. On the watersheds, I do not have the total cost at this point. Councilor Thomas. The hot water is $21,000. But they had to rent some pumps to make sure those watersheds didn't overflow and get into the neighborhoods. And so that's what that was about. With that, we did set up 3 tours for the Mott Green. The final tour is today at 2 o'clock, if anyone's interested in just seeing what they have, what they're talking about down there. Madam Mayor, that concludes my agenda.
Okay, yeah, and Counselor Woodson was just seeing if maybe she could have another day to meet with.
Sure.
That met with her schedule. If you just get with her.
Yes, we can, and I'll have Rick Jones to get with you. We can do it whenever it's convenient for you. But Madam Mayor, one thing that's not listed that Councilor Huff has asked is that Becky Glisson with Parks and Rec update us on the pool passes, the summer thing that we presented to you.
Okay.
With some pools not being.
And the Mayor Pro Tem asked, before that, we got a counselor in queue. Mayor Pro Tem asked if Rick Jones was available, at least, I don't know about whoever else is going, to meet her after council so she can tour
Yes.
the area instead of waiting until 2.
Yes.
I hate to put them out, but
Yeah.
if we get out here early, I don't want to jinx us. Okay, so if you'll just check on that and get with her. So we've got Counselor Huff.
Yes, I appreciate you coming back in. I've been receiving emails this morning on some people trying to get an understanding of the summer pool situation, passes, and what goes on. If you could update them, let them know how to utilize the pools for the summer.
Sure. We've already given out over 800 of the summer fun passes. They're using it at Shirley, at Solomon Road, Double Churches and Rigdon. Every day, we get a huge turnout there, and the Aquatic Center. I just went over there, and we've got a couple hundred kids over there right now. They can get them at the Aquatic Center, at our office, at Metra, or at the ice rink, pick it up. That includes free admission for children 18 and under to Double Churches and Rigdon. They also get the outdoor pool prices at the Aquatic Center, which for children would be $1. We also put the Whibbit obstacle course out every Saturday for them to enjoy. They get free ice skating with this pass, and they get a free ride from Metra to the outdoor pools.
Okay.
And the Aquatic Center if they have a bus route over there.
Okay, so the outdoor pools will be free, and then the
outdoor pools will be free for kids 18 and under with the
outside
pass.
prices to come in.
Right.
Okay.
The Aquatic Center, we're honoring the outdoor pool prices at the Aquatic Center.
Okay.
And we also have concessions at the Aquatic Center every day, which is outside our norm.
Okay, and Councilor
provide them
Thomas is
concessions.
whispering in my ear, it's going to be $1
It'll be $1 for children.
for children.
The
Okay.
adults have to pay at the outdoor pools and the regular price at the Aquatic Center.
Okay, do the parents have to be present for them to swim?
If they're under 16, yes. sir.
Under 16, okay. Thank
So-
you, ma'am.
So the locations, Metra, which is 814 Linwood Boulevard,
Ice rink.
at the ice rink, which is next door to the Columbus Civic Center,
Right.
at Veterans and Victory Drive, and then your office is located
Here.
at 3000
3111 Citizens Way.
3111 Citizens Way. So those are the 3
And
locations.
then the Aquatic Center at 1603 Midtown.
Okay.
We give them out there also.
You can get those passes, and let me tell you, it's a really popular deal. Free is good, and so you get your bus ride at no cost, you get your pass, and you get in free, and if you don't have the pass, you get the outdoor pool rate at $1.
Okay, and the parents are still paying, what, $3 bus ride?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, I think we're good. Let's see here. We've got the clerk's agenda.
Madam Mayor and members of council. On the clerk's agenda, we have a few temporary street closing applications, one for June 21st through the June 22nd for the River City Soapbox Derby practice, on June 28th and 29th in connection with the CSU Team Appreciation Event, on June 30th, the River City Soapbox Derby, and June 30th, the Uptown Big Sky Bravery 5K and 10K Run. And then on June 14th, outdoor church picnic for the Greater Bellwood Baptist Church. On July 16th, a graduation party on Rubin Street. We have a resignation of Mr. Derek Green resigning from the Recreation Advisory Board. Have a motion to receive that.
Okay, we've got a motion and second to receive. Did you have a question about that? Okay. All those in favor, please state aye. Okay, and Mayor Pro Tem, you had something?
Vera Drive closing,
I'm sorry.
on the Vera Drive closing. Closing.
Oh, yes. I can talk with you after. It's not going to happen.
Okay.
Okay.
And then minutes.
Is that one taken off? Excuse me, is it still on here, Tiny?
Yeah, it's just for the council's information.
Okay, well, yeah, that one's been canceled for reasons I can tell y'all about. It's nothing, it was an application error. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Then we have minutes of the Housing Authority and the Tree Board. Motion to receive those minutes.
We've got a motion and second for approval. All those in favor, please state aye.
And on our board appointments, on the Board of Family and Children Services, Ms. Barbara Story Jones' term will be expiring the end of June. She is eligible. We have not heard back as to whether or not she wants to serve again. She does? Okay. Can I get someone to nominate her? You'll nominate her, Councilor Barnes?
Okay, we've got Mayor Pro Tem.
He said he would.
Oh, he would too. I'm sorry, yeah.
All right. We'll bring this back at our next meeting for confirmation. On the Board of Water Commissioners, Mr. Sanders Griffith was renominated for a new term. He can be.
Okay, we've got a motion. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor, please state aye.
And then on our Building Authority, Mr. Christopher Smith has been nominated to succeed Mr. Kel Jackson. He can be confirmed.
Okay, we've got a motion and second for approval. All those in favor, please state aye.
And on our Columbus Aquatics Commission, Ms. Sally Bradley does not want to serve again. Council will need to nominate someone for that seat. Mr. Wes Kelly has been renominated. He can be confirmed.
Second. All right, we've got a motion and second for approval. All those in favor, please state aye.
Then on our Community Development Advisory Council, Councilor Huff is working on a nominee for his District 3 seat. We still need someone for District 6, as well as someone for District 10 seat. On our Comprehensive Plan Stakeholders Committee, we still need someone for this District 10 at large. On the Convention and Visitors Board of Commissioners, Mayor Ms. Marianne Richter, who represents the retail tourism. She is eligible to serve again, wants to serve again, as well as Ms. Allison Cox Rittenberg.
Did you know, Tiny, if they're interested in serving again?
They are.
They are? Okay. Then just renominate them. Please.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
We got a motion for approval. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor, please state aye.
On the Cooperative Extension Advisory Board, Councilor Huff is nominating Ms. Lawana Williams for Ms. Vanessa Lewis seat, and I'll bring this back next week for confirmation. On the Keep Columbus Beautiful Commission, Ms. Karen Henderson is not eligible to serve again. Councilor Huff is nominating Ms. Marion Parks, and we will bring the... We'll bring it back next week for confirmation. Ms. Courtney Lachlan has been renominated. She can be confirmed. Move confirmation.
Got a motion and second for confirmation. All those in favor, please state aye.
On the Liberty District Advisory Committee,
We still need someone for District 5 as well as District 7. On the Personnel Review Board, Mr. Keith Weeks has resigned to go on another board. We'll need someone to replace him on the Personnel Review Board. On the Tree Board, for Dr. Roger Brown's seat, Councilor Huff is nominating Ms. Beauty Moore, and we'll bring this back at our next meeting for confirmation. And we still need someone for Ms. Cassie Renfro's seat. And that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
All right, great.
Yes.
Keep Columbus Beautiful, that was Mr.
Okay. We'll make that. Okay, we'll make that correction.
All right, we have a request for an executive session on items of personnel and litigation.
Potential
Potential litigation.
and real estate disposition.
And real estate disposition. So we've got a motion. Is there a second? All right. All those in favor, please state aye. All right, we're in executive session. Please clear the chambers.
Good afternoon, and welcome back from the executive session. No votes were taken, and we discussed personnel and potential litigation, real estate. And potential litigation.
And now we'll go to the city manager's agenda.
And now we will go to the city manager's agenda. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I've got one final item on my agenda. It's a lease amendment for redevelopment of Claflin School, and we are asking your approval to amend the current lease agreement with Friends of Historic Claflin, Inc., to extend the lease term and incorporate additional requirements needed to satisfy the investors of the project. Friends of Historic Claflin representative is here, and Oracle Consulting Services representative also here. And we're requesting, again, amendments to the existing lease in order to finalize the financing needed to start construction. And so based on the request that they've made to us, our staff is recommending that the lease agreement and any other agreements between the parties be revised as follows. We're asking to extend the term of the lease agreement from 45 years to 65 years, allow provisions to be added to the lease agreement to use the building as collateral to allow for financing to be obtained, add language to the lease agreement that specifies that the property will revert back to the city at the end of the lease term, combine all relevant portions of previous lease amendments, MOU, et cetera, into one document. The redevelopment of this property will assist with the elimination of blight, develop approximately 44 units of affordable housing, and create local jobs. And so we're asking you to approve this amendment request to the lease agreement with Friends of Claflin, Inc., as I've outlined. And so we are asking for your approval today.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilor Davis.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just from my point of view, I'm not in support of the current agreement. I want to let y'all know I'm 100% for the project, 100% behind you, and wish you the best of success and want you to succeed. It's more with me about the construction of the contract as so. I personally am not a fan of the leases at this point. I would be highly in favor of a land purchase type deal. I think you understand what I'm saying. So this is not an objection or opposition to the project by any means. It's just from the standpoint of the contract and the agreement, and I guess that's my right. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no more questions. Is this going to be queued up?
Yes.
You can now vote. That passes.
Mayor Pro Tem, that concludes my agenda.
It's been motioned that we adjourn. All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed, same sign. Thank you. We are adjourned.